All right, hello everybody, and welcome to this presentation. My name is Timo Raab. I'm the Global E-commerce Director of Kiehl's here at L'Oreal. And I'm going to talk to you today about how to win in e-commerce by embracing the new normal. So we have seen a very strong acceleration in e-commerce over the last few years, especially during the COVID times. But now we really have to prepare for a new normal because consumers are going back to retail, and we see that e-commerce and retail are going to coexist, and we really have an omni-channel world in the future. If we look back at the development of e-commerce share over the last years, we have seen a tremendous acceleration after the COVID pandemic. So here in this graph, we will see the total e-commerce penetration in the United States, one of the biggest e-commerce markets in the world. And we have seen that the acceleration that we had in 8 weeks during COVID has been as fast as the acceleration that we have seen in the 10 years prior. So really a strong acceleration with a very big shift as well in consumer behavior, but also in the way businesses are engaging with consumers and are targeting their consumers online. But the good news is that these growth rates are not slowing down. We see that in the predictions, and this is now global, that retail e-commerce sales worldwide are continuing to grow this year, but also the next years. So e-commerce is really here to stay. But what's surprising over the last couple of months, and I think this is not only true for L'Oreal, is that we have also seen retail bounce back very fast, and we have seen especially in the Cyber Week and Black Friday a very strong acceleration here in the United States for retail, and consumers really going back to retail to have the experience. So what we need to do in the future is to really find a business model that helps to coexist and that helps to have an omni-channel experience. Because e-commerce is not only accelerating, it will be the first consumer touch point. So it's shifting from just having a product page and selling a product to really being more holistic and really having an educational factor as well, giving consumers the opportunity to visit your site and to find your products there, to get educated, and then go to a store to experience the product, to maybe try it, and then go back to your online sites to replenish it. And the lines are going to be more and more blurry. So if we look at the vision of L'Oreal for the future, is we see 50% e-commerce share across all of our different brands and across all of our markets. So in the future, 50% of our business will be done on e-commerce. And the prediction right now is that this will be the case for 2025, but we know that already some of our brands are already there today. So if you just think that L'Oreal has a global turnover of around $30 billion worldwide, it means that $50 billion will be done on e-commerce. This is a huge figure, and of course, a huge part of the business, and it has a huge acceleration that comes with it. But also this growth is going to come with new challenges. As I said, 15 billion in turnover. This is a lot of logistics, a lot of parcels, a lot of sending packages directly to consumers. And I think for right now, we see 3 different challenges that will be very crucial in order for companies to be successful. The first one is acquisition costs. So we see a stronger competition in digital because consumers started to search online, and they will continue to search online. So also brands are more and more investing into acquiring consumers online and really targeting directly on search engines and in social. So it's really getting more expensive to acquire consumers in these channels. And 41% of brands plan to further increase their paid and organic search budgets. So search is really going to be one of the battlefields where we fight for consumers with our competitors, but also with retailers entering these new ways of advertising. The second point is data privacy. So consumers are more and more cautious about whom they give their data to. And this also makes it more difficult for companies to target consumers in the right way. So on the one hand, you have a higher acquisition cost, and on the other hand, you have more and more consumers opting out, which means that your return on ad spend, your efficiency in online advertising is decreasing. And then the third one is something that is related specifically to e-commerce, and this is sustainability. So this growing volume of order calls for a more sustainable supply chain that is integrated on a holistic way. So not only in terms of sending packages to consumer, but also in terms of how do we package these goods? How do we make sure that we have frustration-free packaging, that we don't have one packaging inside another packaging? And I think one brand that is really leading the way here is Nike with their sustainable packaging initiatives. So their move to zero, which is a very, very interesting case in my eyes. So if we look into the success factors and what has made us so successful at L'Oreal over the last 2 years, in 2022, I saw 3 success factors. The first one really was brand building and a focus on sharpening the brand image to increase visibility. So we see that in this world where we have this very, very strong competition online, and we move from going to a store where you have a shelf where you maybe see like 50, 60 to 100 products, to searching on your desktop, you only had 10. Now, if you look in your mobile phone, you only have maybe 3 results that you really see and that you really pay attention to. And if we look into the future of voice search, we know that it will only be 1 result. So the brand is becoming very, very important. The second part is loyalty. So really creating strong connection with consumers to increase customer lifetime value. So we see that the efficiency of a consumer that is loyal is much, much higher than the efficiency of a consumer that gets acquired, because the acquisition is something that takes a lot of time and a lot of budget. And then the third part really is sustainability. And here it's more a sharing of what we do today and our vision, and really giving you concrete examples, while for brand building and loyalty, I will give you some concrete examples today. Let's dive into brand building. So consumers trust strong brands, and this is not only the case for online, but overall. If you look into your purchasing behavior, you really trust strong brands, and the brand really helps you to build a connection and trust with the product that you're purchasing. So consumers today are 4 times more likely to purchase a product if they trust a brand. So this is even more the case for a brand when you have it online, and especially when you have different touch points in different markets and don't only sell on your direct to consumer. So here it's very important as well to be very consistent, so that consumers, they see your brand, they trust it, and that they can also see it across all of the channels in a consistent execution. So if we look into the online ecosystem, brand building can be done through e-commerce, and it can be done very, very successful. I would go even a step further and say, if you don't have a strong brand, you will not succeed in e-commerce in the future, because consumers are searching for brands, and they have such a big variety of products and such a big variety of offers that it's going to be very, very hard for you to get into the relevant set of your consumers and be considered for purchase if you don't have a strong brand and if you don't have a very, very strong search strategy. And if you look into how you can build a brand, it all starts with consistency. So you need to make sure that you have the same brand image and the same execution across all of your channels today. Then the second part, and this is becoming more and more important, is paid media. We already spoke about the importance of search and the rise of acquisition costs. So paid media and investing there is really, really crucial for success. So if you want to build a brand online, I would recommend that you focus with your budget on really brand campaigns and building the brand and on more awareness-focused media, instead of focusing too much on conversion, especially if you're in the phase of just building the brand. If you already have a very, very strong brand and you have already a lot of consumers that are considering your brands, it's much easier for you and much more efficient also to have these performance media conversion tactics, because then you already have a pool of consumers that you can target instead of acquiring new ones. But if you don't have that yet, make sure you have that, and all of your other media investments will become much more efficient. Then the third focus is aligned with consumers not sharing their data anymore. So focus on D2C, focus on own channels, because this will give you the opportunity as well to have first-party data and to understand your consumer behavior. if you solely rely on retail partnerships, it will become very, very hard for you to understand the full consumer behavior and understand how consumers interact with your brand, what they click, what they like, and what kind of product could be interesting for the future. And then leverage all of your data, make sure that you have a full visibility of all the different data touch points in one centralized database, so you can really focus on giving consumers what they need and understand their needs better. One of the things that is really, really interesting if you have a direct-to-consumer website is also using that as a flagship. So on the one hand, you can generate first-party data to create an elevated experience, to make sure that what you have on your site is backed by data and by A/B testing. So you really understand what works, what kind of content, what kind of consumer journey, what kind of separation and best practices in terms of bestsellers, in terms of navigation will help you to convert more. So you can then use that to also improve the collaboration with your retailers and improve the usability on these sites. And you can optimize the consumer journey based on real data, which will help you to better understand how consumers search on your site, how consumers navigate, and in the end, what makes consumers buy a product and what makes consumers increase their conversion. The second part that I want to share with you today is regarding loyalty. So loyalty is all about creating strong connections with consumers and increasing the customer lifetime value. And if we look into the value of data and the recent development, we have seen that Apple was leading the way with iOS 14, giving more powers to consumer and giving the powers back to consumers about their data and really giving them the opportunity to decide with whom they want to share their data. So this is a factor that is really influencing a lot the way we do marketing today, because 61% of consumers will only share their data if necessary. So brands really need to rethink their targeting, their personalization, and the way they engage with consumers and the way they understand consumers. And if they don't offer benefit to consumers, we need to consider that more and more consumers will opt out and not share their data anymore. So we don't have all of the insights that we had before in order to improve our tracking. So one thing that this has as a result is a shift from recruitment to retention. So this is very important for us, and we focus a lot on retention because we have had a very, very strong acceleration in consumers engaging with the brands and starting to shop the brand for the first time online. So we had a very strong increase in our database, and I'm sure that many other companies and brands had the same phenomenon as well, because consumers started purchasing online for the first time and signed up for the database. And so now it's really about making sure that you have this treasure of data and you have all of these insights, but also making sure that you have a repurchase there and that you really start bringing these consumers into a loyalty loop. So shifting from media sampling and sign up to recruit new consumers to CRM triggers, personalized offers, and loyalty measures in order to increase their lifetime value. And if we look into the quote of Nicolas Hieronymus, who's the CEO of L'Oréal, who said, in the future, 1% more retention will be as valuable as 1% of market share increase. It shows A, that it's present at top management level, and B, that it's very, very important for him and that he really sees this as a key business driver for the future. And this is why we all focus so much on that and really try to understand what we can do in order to increase the customer lifetime value, how we can loyalize and how we can build offers that will make consumers more loyal to the brand. And in the end, that will make them convert more over a longer period of time as well. So it's shifting from maybe a date to more of a long-term relationship with a consumer, really making sure that you have this relationship and that you understand the consumers and that you are there in different phases of the lives and the years of the consumers to come. One thing that is an interesting approach in order to loyalize and in order to generate data is increasing services. So one thing that we have done during COVID for Kerastase, which is a luxury hair care brand that has a very, very broad portfolio of specific products, is that we have seen that usually the products have been prescribed, if you want, so by hairdressers that really recommended the routines, the product based on the hair needs of the consumers. And this, of course, was not possible anymore during the lockdowns and COVID. So we really wanted to give consumers the same experience, the same expertise that our hairdressers were giving them by offering an online tool. So we have launched an online diagnosis that you can see on the left-hand side with a very easy questionnaire where you had only to answer a few questions. And we did that based on the insights of our hairdressers and accelerated by artificial intelligence, so that consumers will get the personalized routines, the recommended products. And this was something where we see that consumers were very willing to give their data, and they really were sharing their data without hesitation because they had some value back for it. So we see that on the one hand, we increased our average order value because we recommended products that they might have not considered before, increased our conversion rate, and had an incredible increase in database sign up by 13%. That really helped us to learn more about consumers and also to generate these insights for product development, also for product placement, and for deciding which products we bundle with each other, and how we can have our offers there. So it really shows the interest of consumers, that it works also in terms of business, and it really increases the engagement, the time spent with the brand. And now let's jump into sustainability, a very, very big topic for all of us in the future, but already today. And I want to share what we're doing at L'Oreal in order to move the needle here, in order to lead the way. And if we look at the figures before we jump into what we're doing at L'Oreal, we see that consumers move from being concerned, where they said sustainable goods, where they search for sustainable goods, and it's a very strong increase year over year, to being concerned. They say 77% say that they're concerned about environmental footprints and products they buy. And now for the first time, they're also willing to put money behind. While the years before, everybody said they were concerned, but in the end, they ended up buying the products that did the same environmental footprint that they did before. They also took the same flights, had the same behavior that they had before, while still being concerned. Now consumers start to be willing to pay more from a brand that has a clear sustainability commitment. So it really shows the willingness to pay of the consumers, which will then influence even stronger the commitment of big corporations and brands in the future. And for L'Oreal, this is key. And one of our extra financial goals as well is to be an exemplary citizen of the world, which is why we have launched our L'Oreal commitments. So it's called L'Oreal for the Future. It's a full program of a very holistic approach with a lot of different factors. So reduction of water, packaging, environmental footprint of our buildings, reduction of CO2, all of that. So it's a program, you can Google it. It's called L'Oreal for the Future. We are very transparent on what we are planning there, what our progress is. But I wanted to take off a few examples here that are linked to e-commerce. So overall, what we're trying to do by 2030 is to reduce our greenhouse gases linked to the transportation of products by 50%, by optimizing our e-commerce packaging, and reducing the packaging intensity. So also making sure that we don't have a package within a package. Then in 2025, 100% of our plastic packaging will be refillable, reusable, recyclable, or compostable. And in 2030, 100% of our plastic use in packaging will be either from recycled or bio-based sources. So we really lead the way here. And if we look at the status quo, we see that we're very well on track. Of course, it's not perfect. And of course, it's an evolving process that will continue to move forward in the future, and that will continue to be adapted to the needs of the planet in the future. But I wanted to share this with you today because I think it's a good example of what you can do already today and how you can set yourself achievable goals and move forward in order to increase your performance there in the future. And while we spoke a lot about 2020, as it is the end of the year, I also want to give you some predictions for e-commerce in the future. The first one is focus. So the winning brands will win big and the others will lose slowly. So brands that focus on their own brand and focus on a few products, on a handful of products that they will make big, will be the ones winning. If you look into all of the big success stories in e-commerce, it's not the ones that have thousands of products. It's usually the ones that focus very clearly on their hero products. The second one is social commerce will be something that is going to completely revolutionize the way we do our business today. And we see it already happening in Asia, where for some of the brand, between 15 and 30% of their global turnover is coming from social commerce already today. Supply chain will become the key to success of e-commerce, and jobs in supply chain will be the most interesting jobs in e-commerce and within business in the future. And the metaverse is something that is already there that will continue to accelerate. And Web3 is something that will also help us to rethink how we do our business. And brands will start to invest in new concepts. We are still in a very, very early phase, but I invite you to be curious about it and to start looking into what could be your Web3 strategy and how this could influence the way you do your business. And what you can learn also from the projects other brands are doing to really explore, like 10 years ago when people started investing into e-commerce, this is the same stage that we are again with Web3. So embrace that and have fun trying it out. And I hope the presentation was insightful and interesting for you. I thank you for your attention in this online format. And if you should have any questions, I'm here for your answers. If you want to, you can reach out on LinkedIn. I'm happy to share with you any further feedbacks, and thank you for listening.